YouTube, Pink Ladies, T-Birds, just happen to be watchers of my shit. My name is Jimmi Pynk, and I am here to review part 3 of the new edition story. Now, the look goes as follows. As you can see, the finale look, they had on the black velvet blazers, the different color ties, the black slacks. Riz, aka Ralph Tresvant, had on his hat. So I'm giving you a little female fantasy of the same. Of course, I picked pink as my color. Of course. So anyway, let's get into this. Oh, you bitch. For real? Anyway, so part 3, I finally got to see part 3 of the new edition story. And I gotta tell you, overall, as a mini-series, I am pleased. It got a little heavy-handed. The look that I'm wearing right now, once it got to that part, mixing with the flashbacks, it got a little heavy-handed. We'll get into that in a minute. But we come into part 3 with, was the fight last episode, like I said, I just watched the end of season 2 and part 3 at the same time, so I apologize if I'm getting them mixed up. But the fight that we saw at the beginning of season 1, now that's in here somewhere. Anyway, it don't matter. Shit galore to talk about in this last episode. My God. I'm going to go out of order, but first of all, I have to say, the part with Ricky Bale broke my fucking heart. Here's the thing, and you have to understand, once we get into the third part, which I always assumed would have ended up being the second part, and the whole third part would have been their solo careers and everything. And I will want to say, oddly enough, I'm pleasantly surprised and pleasantly pleased that there wasn't a whole lot of focus on their solo efforts. As far as when I say that, I mean, there was definitely attention brought to it. It had to be as part of the story. But we didn't have a big, long section about BBD and how Biv started and found her. I mean, we got nods to it. Like we seen them all. We seen the Video Soul clip, which Tracy Ellis Ross, girl, you and Sherry Carter was giving me life, bitch. I ain't even gonna lie. But we had them on Video Soul where all of them, well, we have 4 different factions out of the 6 now. We have Bobby as a solo, Johnny as a solo, Ralph as a solo, and BBD. But there wasn't a whole lot of focus on, well, Mike started Biv 10 Records and did all of this, and then Ralph did all of this, and Bobby did all of this, and did the soundtrack for Ghostbusters, and Johnny Gill did all of this. They really focused on it being the new edition story. And my assumption was always going to be everything that we saw in part 3 was going to be in part 2, and part 3 was going to be more so about their solo efforts and then them getting back together. I'm pleasantly surprised that it really was the new edition story and they didn't really go into that. But the Ricky story, it broke my heart because we heard, you know, Bobby went solo. Bobby was a fool. Bobby always been a fool. And we had heard about Bobby being on drugs and Bobby going through financial troubles. And we've heard all of this. And poor little Ricky Bale, nobody even knew about this with him. And that broke my heart, man. I can't even lie. Like, I was crying on that part. I'm like, my Ricky, like, I always thought, I understand, like, they painted them to have this very bubblegum pop aesthetic. But I just, like, that floored me that Bobby was just turned out like that. Like, that floored me. The fact that when they had that fight like that, Brooke had a heart attack over that. Because, I mean, let's keep it 100. I think I said this in the first episode. Ronnie was his biological nephew. If that wasn't enough to see him going through that, he basically raised the rest of these boys too, and that broke his heart, and he had a heart attack. I love how everything came full circle. I love how, like, Ronnie was the one that snapped. Because the whole way that they set it up, it kind of seemed like Mike was the loyal one and Mike was about his friends. Ricky was just there for fun and pussy. Ronnie just always really wanted to be in the group. But he just was in the group because of his uncle, even though he was the best dancer, but he wasn't really like no great singer or nothing like that. Bobby was the wild card that always wanted to be a star. Johnny got brought in late. And Mike seemed the one that was scrappy. Like we seen that at the very beginning. You don't need to be around Mike. He be hanging around the wrong people. That Mike was scrappy and Bobby was an asshole. And Mike seemed to be the one that would always check Bobby. So when it got to the point where it was Ronnie that checked him, it was nice how they brought that back around and let us know, like, hey, I knew I was wrong when you came for me, bro, because you the glue. I never knew that. I never knew Ronnie was the one was the glue. But it makes sense because hereditarily, you know, I'm sure probably something that we didn't see. You know, his uncle was the choreographer, but I'm sure he confided in his uncle a lot more because that's his biological uncle. He grew up with him before there was even a group, and he wasn't always in the group. Not saying their friendship was less, but, you know, he was brought in later, so I'm sure he confided in his uncle, and his uncle, you know, we didn't see that in the movie. There wasn't time, but I'm sure there was times that Ronnie probably went to his uncle like, man, these dudes, this and this and this. His uncle was like, come on, Ronnie. You know, I'm not y'all manager no more, but if you want to do this, da-da-da-da-da-da. So that made sense to me, too. I remember when they broke up. I remember reading about that fight. Now, I remember it. But like I said, this ain't World Star days, so we ain't never see it or nothing like that. This was the episode that I really, really, really started seeing Yaz is Biv. Yaz really turned into Biv on this part, so I think it was beneficial for him to be playing an older part because he was so separated far away from what Hakeem and Empire's age was. You know, like I said, I like the little nods of these people did try to go and do everything separately, but they were better together. I like the way they did that. They had like the little interview with Johnny Gill talking about Levert Sweat Gill, which is Gerald Levert, LSG, Levert, Gerald Levert, Keith Sweat, and Johnny Gill. And if y'all ain't hip, honey, you ain't heard No Baby Making Music till you heard LSG. Let me let you know. But it was really good. The part with Ronnie, like, you know, we had to look into that and see what was doing. Like, we kind of already knew what Bobby was doing. They didn't have to dwell on that, and that was good that they didn't have to. They didn't really make it the Bobby Brown story, which is also good. They didn't focus on him quite that much. But we kind of already knew that, so they didn't do that. They did Ricky. They showed Ronnie doing the real estate class, and them like, damn, I didn't know he fell off like that. I like the fact that they were talking about how when they was on tour, they was all flossing, like they all had their own individual tour buses, and it was like all their second albums flopped. Truth. I was there for that. See, this is my era. I was there for that. All their second albums, but BBD's second album flopped. Johnny Gill's second album flopped. Ralph Tresvant, I didn't even know had a second album, so clearly that flopped. They were saying how the only ones that really still had money was Bobby and Mike. Well, Mike had money because he had Boyz II Men and ABC money, and Bobby had money because Bobby had Whitney money. But, you know, it was good for them to show all of that and like how their egos and how like they finally checked their egos. I want to talk about the ending of the series. And though the series as a whole is great, this is my least favorite episode of the three. And I'll tell you why. First of all, and I get it. I definitely get it. It's a BET series. Why are you paying for the likenesses? I mean, they did Soul Train, which, you know, that's a black institution. But yeah, I'm not about to give y'all money to recreate the American Music Awards or the Grammys or none of this stuff or tours that they might appear with other people. I'm not about to give y'all license money, so we gonna do BET. I get that. However, they basically did their whole BET performance at the 25, and that was in 2005, so that was like only 12 years ago. They basically recreated the entire thing. The whole time that they were performing, they were doing these flashbacks to other parts of the story and bringing it back. That could have been done better than what it was, because in some cases I was like, y'all just doing like the part where Ralph was upset when the girlfriend lost the baby and Ron was like, oh, we got you. That had no place in that. The part that did that the best is when they brought Bobby Brown out, because I kept looking at this and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have a clear remembrance. But I was like, I had a vague remembrance. I'm like, wait a minute, where is Bobby? Bobby was on this. Bobby was on this show. Bobby was on this show. Where's Bobby? Once they brought him out, I seen it. The part where they went back to Bobby having the flashback and he was like, next time, but I want y'all with me. And he was doing My Prerogative, and all the rest of them came out and they were singing My Prerogative with him and doing Bobby's choreography. That was lit. That was lit. That was fire. That was everything. That was the justifiable flashback to go back and forth with that. I didn't too much mind the Ricky flashback. Not Ricky, I'm sorry. The Ralph flashback, where they flashed back to Ricky and came back and was like, you know, when they wanted him to go solo was for these people that he wasn't even going to know in 10 years. And then flash back to them 30 some odd years later still performing together. Like those parts of the flashback, I was like, that worked very well. Some of them I was like, okay, y'all doing too much. One of the other things, and I guess this is based on a true story because this really happened. I like the part where Ronnie was getting married and he was talking to his wife and his wife was like, listen, I see what your problem is. We done already got our people. These are your friends, Ronnie. I understand. You want them to be here. You want them to be here. Like his wife was talking to him and telling him, you know, he needed to call them to the wedding and everything. And like they came back for his wedding. And I guess that was the catalyst that brought them back together, which is fine. And I'm sure that's what happened in real life because I know these guys actually had a lot to do with the story and that's what brought them back. However, why was some dude that worked for BET that was a producer there? I guess they was friends with the uncle. I don't know. Beats the fuck out of me. The other thing is when the uncle stood up. Now, mind you, this is Ronnie's biological uncle. Ronnie is in the wedding. None of the rest of the guys is in the wedding. I'm sorry, Ronnie is in the wedding. Of course, it was Ronnie's wedding. Brooke was in the wedding. Wood Harris was in the wedding. That's his biological uncle. That is his mother's brother. You gonna take the wedding toast at my motherfucking wedding to talk about New Edition? No, motherfucker. And if I was the wife, I would feel some sort of way about that. I would. I hope that was poetic license and that shit didn't really happen at the wedding. It would be, I mean, if that was like a wedding speech, you know how like everybody's wedding speech, they'd be like, oh, so-and-so's grandparents made it here from Alaska or whoever, they keep running Mississippi, wherever. And they said, I'm happy to see all 6 members of New Edition in the building. It's good to see y'all. I'm glad y'all could be here for my nephew. I love each and every one of y'all. And then that was enough. If that whole speech really went down how it was in that movie and I'm the motherfucking wife, I'm mad. This ain't a New Edition motherfucking reunion, bitch. This is my wedding. This is about me. This is about us, Ronnie. This ain't about New Edition. However, him singing Candy Girl to her when they doing the thing where they take the garter off was adorable. I hope that did happen in real life. Because that was cute. That was adorable. But other than that, overall, man, after seeing the Whitney story, I never did see the Aaliyah story. I couldn't bring myself to it because Aaliyah was my bitch. And y'all did her dirty and I'd have felt away. But I seen the Whitney story. I seen the TLC story, which I felt like the actresses was cast better. They needed to go this route. It really needed to be 3 parts. I think that would have been better if that would have been 3 parts. Hell, I think it would have been better if it would have been in the hands of BET instead of VH1. I'm going to just keep it 100. Not trying to bring race into it, but don't nobody know poor black inner city like somebody that's from poor black inner city. And for the most part, at least anymore, BET is blackening up. Somebody that talked to Viacom and was like, look, you're fucking up. Black people is not liking their channel no more. You got TV One out here. You got Centric out here cleaning this shit up. And that's why they got this whole Yes to 2017 program. And the New Edition was like the jumping off point to be like, listen, we're going to do black centric shows and we're going to start doing them right. We're not giving shit to MTV, Viacom, Nickelodeon treatment no more. We're going to do this shit right. We are Black Entertainment TV. We're going to give y'all black entertainment the way it should be done. And this is what they started off with. So they're going in a fantastic direction. Glad to see it. This was just really well done. Like I said, y'all got the part 3. And the Video Soul part was cool because that was a part of New Edition's history. Because if you paid attention, that was a reunion they did for that show. And they're like, oh, we're doing a reunion album real soon. And the reunion album didn't come for 6 years after that because all their solo albums flopped and they was broke. You needed to see that. That was a key part. However, the BET 25 going the way that it did and them doing the entire performance, that was BET taking license to say, hey, remember, we the ones that brought y'all this. We brought you this New Edition shit. We showed y'all this. Remember, we gonna do it front to back. Finally, what I got to say is the recreations of the motherfucking videos. That shit was fabulous. The If It Isn't Love, how they was dressed for that. I do. Somebody mentioned this when they said I was surprised I didn't talk about the costume designer. So let me talk about the costume designer. Whoever was the costume designer, if you don't get a motherfucking Emmy, bitch! I'm talking about every look that was iconic, every look. You picture side by side. Go on Google and Google that shit. Nailed it. I don't even know. You got to be recreating this stuff. There's no way you can still find half of this stuff. Maybe Bobby Brown's troop jacket. Okay? Maybe Bobby Brown's troop jacket. Maybe when they didn't have on nothing but them white suits. But when you had on like the one where they had on the sequin suits with the pocket of hanky on the sleeve, the white military jacket with the gold, like some of this stuff, I was like, somebody remade this from scratch. And they paid attention to detail. If the motherfucker that did the costuming for this movie don't get nominated for an Emmy, or this miniseries don't get nominated for an Emmy, it's a shame and a damn disgrace because they deserve it. They did an amazing job with that. So, anyway, I don't know what else I'm about to do, but y'all will probably end up with another video tonight. I really got to get started on this practical magic. But anyway, if you are not a Pink Lady or a T-Bird, go ahead and subscribe. Wait, before I get into that, let me know how y'all felt about New Edition. Which was y'all favorite part? Who was y'all favorite member of New Edition? What was y'all favorite New Edition song? How did y'all feel about this? Do y'all agree with me? I'm sorry, I didn't. I liked the finale. I just think BET was just pushing BET a little bit too much in the finale, I think. Plus, it was only a 3-part mini-series that we really, and it was over 3 days. So after that, you're probably watching it all in a row. That we need that many of the flashbacks in it. Like, I just didn't love the finale. If the finale would have probably just been the performance, I probably would have been happier about it, even though that is a whole lot of BET tooting their own damn horn. But anyway, let me know how y'all feel. What did y'all like about it, disliked about it? Do y'all agree with me? If you are not subscribed to my channel, you're not one of my Pink Ladies or T-Birds, go ahead and click that little circular button right there that looks like me as Sailor Moon but skinny as hell. And then, of course, you can either watch part 1 of the review if you haven't seen it, or part 2 of the review if you haven't seen it. So, I'm going to get up out of here because I was supposed to have a snack and some juice. And I just put on clothes and got right into this bitch. So thank you for watching. As always, I love you. NE forever. Deuces.